Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. My name is Paul Salter, and I'm a triple-digit golfer on a quest to become a scratch golfer. I'm also a high-performance mindset coach and credentialed hypnotherapist with 15 years of experience helping high performers from all walks of life get unstuck and unlock their full potential. Join me each week as I not only detail my journey, but make mastering the mental game of golf simple, tangible, and relatable so that you can overcome the mental hazards keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance. Hey, fellow golfer and golfing addict. Welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist. And I gotta be honest with you, I find myself relentlessly, borderline obsessively thinking about all things golf lately. And I'm channeling this through a lens of positivity. This is productive. This is what I need to achieve my goal of breaking 90 on or before November 13th, 2024. And if you want to stay up to date and also get the exact blueprint I have put in place to achieve this goal, which we are 80 something days away from, check out, I believe it is episode 22 entitled Blissful Disappointment, Lost Balls, and my approach to shoot sub 90 in 92 days. You'll hear exactly what I'm focused on, the ultimate goal, the performance goals, and the process goals, as well as what my daily and weekly non-negotiables look like to achieve this goal. And the one last mention I want to remind you about is episode, where did it go? I'm looking at my notes. 21. How to create the golf identity you need to shoot lower scores. I've gotten a ton of great feedback, had a lot of fantastic discussion about this episode. And if you are serious about taking your game to the next level, you need to understand who that version of you is who breaks 90, breaks 80, or shoots par consistently. Because what ultimately is happening is an identity change. And episode 21 will guide you through this entire process and help you answer the most important question along your journey. Who do you need to become to achieve your goal? Well, with that said, again, welcome back. We are diving into an exciting episode, hitting and addressing your fear of success. Yes, you heard me right. You're afraid of success. There is a hidden ceiling, an invisible gravitational like force holding you back that isn't rooted in fear of failure. It's rooted in fear of success. In fact, amongst all of the high performance clients I work with, the professional poker players, the competitive and professional golfers, the athletes, the high performing CEOs and entrepreneurs, fear of success, breaking through to the next level, whether in income, impact, golf score, is probably the number one aspect we work on most. You have a fear of success. And allow me to share a simple story to illustrate how and where this fear of success may begin to originate. And I'm going to lead with this story, and then we're going to reverse engineer and break down all of the elements I highlight in this story. And this story is about one of my successful poker playing clients. Growing up, he had an absentee father. In fact, his father was hardly around. His father was a drunk. So he grew up the majority of his life living with his mom, being raised by a single mother. And around the age of 8, his father started to come around again. It wasn't that his father lived in a different country. His father lived a couple miles away. Absent for so long, inconsistently involved in his life. At around the age of 8, he began coming around a lot more. And ultimately, they started spending more time together after school. His father would pick him up from school and take him over to his house, and they'd spend a few hours together playing the game of chess. His father taught him how to play the game of chess. And my client was ecstatic. He's over the moon. He's getting to spend time with his father, which every young boy idolizes and admires, sees their father more or less as a hero-like figure. So my client is over the moon. And as a couple of weeks go by, they're playing chess consistently. He's beginning to reconnect and form that strong bond with his father. My client, again, 8 years old at the time, starts winning. Starts beating his father consistently in the game of chess. And after another couple of weeks pass in which my client has consistently beaten his father in the game of chess, this 8-year-old boy beating this man in the game of chess, his father stops coming around. His father disappears again. In fact, his father disappeared for 7 years. He didn't see his father again until the age of 15. So in that moment, a collection of beliefs were formed around what it meant to succeed and have success, to win. My client learned it wasn't safe to win. It wasn't safe to have success because the consequences in that situation for that poor young little 8-year-old boy was the loss of his father. The rejection, the judgment, and the ultimate abandonment by his father was the consequence of winning. And as you can imagine, this belief was set. And it plagued him for the next few decades, leading to him falling into a pattern of behavior of playing small, self-destructing when he was on the verge of success. And for this client in particular, he noticed when he made deep runs in poker tournaments, the closer he got to the big money or to the final table, it was as if all of a sudden he veered course, got stuck on autopilot, dissociated, and self-destructed, making outrageous decisions that he knew logically were the incorrect decisions to make. But it was almost as if he couldn't help himself. He felt out of control. And as we unpacked all this, it was becoming very clear that he was reacting to the situation, getting closer and closer to this next level, life-changing success. He would implode because it was unsafe for this young 8-year-old boy that was within him to achieve success. And when we got to the core of this and we released the emotion around it, began to dismantle the destructive mindset programs that had created, began to practice forgiveness to and for his father, all of a sudden, he's pushing and running deeper in tournaments. He's making more and more final tables. He all of a sudden felt a sense of safety having success. He knew logically, but now his subconscious understood and experienced emotionally that success was safe. It was okay to win and to succeed. And this is just one of many, many examples I could share with you about how fear of success is holding you back from achieving the next level results you desire. And this phenomenon, this fear of success, this collection of self-imposed limitations on how safe it is to achieve success, it has a name. And it's known as the upper limit problem. An upper limit problem is a psychological phenomenon that describes the unconscious experience of feeling that there is a self-imposed limit to how much money, success, or love you can achieve. Or, specific to our focus, there's a limit on how low of a round you can shoot. And the best way that I like to articulate and provide an example of the upper limit problem in action is with the following thermostat analogy. And I want you to imagine your success and happiness as the temperature in your home, and your internal beliefs and self-worth as the thermostat that controls it. When your thermostat is set to a certain temperature, such as 72 degrees, it maintains that comfort level. But if the temperature begins to rise above 72 degrees, well, the thermostat kicks on to cool things down and bring the temperature back to the desired and set level. Conversely, if things get too cold, the thermostat will heat things up to again achieve that set level of 72 degrees. Now, in our context of the upper limit problem, this thermostat represents your internal belief about how much success, happiness, and wealth you deserve. And this setting is based on your past experiences, your self-concept, how you see yourself, and the collection of deep-seated fears and beliefs you've accumulated over the years. So when you achieve more success or happiness than your internal thermostat setting, you begin to unconsciously cool things down by engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors. And these actions ultimately bring your success, your happiness, your income back down to the level where you're comfortable, what's most familiar to you. And let's go one step further and talk about an example of an upper limit problem specifically on the course. So let's say you have a goal, just like myself, of breaking 90. And that goal could be breaking 80 shooting par. But for my sake and for your sake, we're running with the example. You aspire to break 90 for the first time. You shoot a 42 on the front nine. You're excited. You're over the moon. Let's be honest. Now all of a sudden, you got an extra pep in your step, a swagger when you walk. You're feeling, might I add, overly confident that today is the day that breaking 90 is a given. It's all but guaranteed. And as you make the turn, of course, you don't recognize it at the time, but you reflect back and you begin to see this pattern emerge. You subtly begin to engage in a handful of sabotaging behaviors as you tee off on the back nine. And this may look like choosing the more aggressive approach or the more aggressive club off the tee box or otherwise. Perhaps skipping core elements of your pre-shot routine, or not emotionally resetting after each shot and after each hole. And before you know it, one small mistake compounds into many, and suddenly your scorecard is littered with a handful of double bogeys, a triple, and frustration continues to grow, which further compounds your mistake and creates more tension and tightness throughout your entire body. The result? Well, you card a wonderful 49 on the back, and alas, you've yet to break 90 again as you finish the round of 18 shooting a 90. And again, this all relates back to this fear of success. So you're going to hear me begin to break this down in multiple elements. I want to address the following elements that influence and catalyze this upper limit problem you are battling. There is at the core an identity change. Who do you become? And I like to use this analogy. If you're like a 6 to 10 handicap right now, how does your life change when you're suddenly a scratch golfer? It changes significantly whether you want to acknowledge it or let it, and I'll dive into that more. In addition, there is a fear of judgment, abandonment, and rejection underneath the surface. There's a lack of safety with achieving your next level goal. And I'll give you a couple examples as we continue on away from the golf course, in your business and your friendships as well, in your own health endeavors. And there's also a lack of feeling as if you are worthy, deserving, and capable of achieving your goal. I think the best place to first begin is unpacking this fear of success on a primal level. You and I, all humans, we are a tribal or a community-centric species. Centuries ago, our ancestors' lives depended upon being part of a tribe. Anything that risked being kicked out of the tribe induced a deep-rooted sense of fear, which served as a red flag to stop said behavior immediately, because the consequence of being ostracized from the tribe, was death. You either starved to death or you were eaten by that super friendly saber-toothed tiger. So here's kind of what happens. If your tribe judged you for your behavior, there was a risk of being kicked out. If your tribe abandoned you, it was likely a matter of days before your impending death. And of course, if your tribe rejected you, you ultimately were abandoned. And again, death by starvation or saber-toothed tiger was a couple days away. So as a result of our dependence upon a tribe to survive, even to this day, you and I are biologically hardwired with 3 core fears. And I like to refer to these fears as the fear jar, J-A-R. There's fear of judgment, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. And again, each of these core fears is rooted in helping you survive. And I totally get what you might be thinking and feeling right now. These seem too primal, too simple, too silly to be prevalent today. Let me remind you as candidly as I can, they are more prevalent now than ever before. You fear judgment, abandonment, and rejection. And I'll share some additional examples as we move forward to further paint this picture. Because here's what happens. If you suddenly experience a breakthrough and you achieve next level success, it's very likely that your tribe, your family, your tight-knit group of friends, your colleagues will judge you, reject you, or abandon you. And this can manifest in many and every way, in every aspect of your life. So let me share 3 examples to really give you a well-rounded picture of how this fear of judgment, abandonment, and rejection might be at the core of what's keeping you stuck from breaking through to the next level in your golf game, your business, or in your personal health goals. So let's start with a common one, health and weight loss. I saw this all the time in my work as a performance dietitian. So let's assume you're part of a tight-knit family that spends a lot of quality time together. And growing up, however, this quality time often revolved around dining out, picking up fast food, and eating meals and not so healthy meals in front of the TV. As a result, you and every member of your family, parents and siblings, have struggled mightily with your weight as well as with your health. And as you enter into adulthood and begin to desire to make positive changes, to improve your health, to lose weight, to become more active and more fit, you suddenly start to find yourself stuck in the cycle of losing and regaining the same 20, 30, even 50 pounds over and over again. Because deep down, you're torn between wanting change and fearing that by succeeding, you may distance yourself from the people who matter most to you. Now, why does this happen? Well, let's think about it. If you want to lose weight and improve your health, you need to significantly cut back on the amount of fast food you eat, the frequency you dine out, and you need to spend more time away and off for the couch and moving, exercising, working out, taking care of your body. Yet, you value and have decades of experience spending quality time every Friday and Saturday night eating shit food in front of the TV with your family. And now all of a sudden, you don't want to do that anymore. You want to make better food choices. You want to stay in and cook in, and you want to get off the couch and move more. Tension's created. Now all of a sudden, there's this underlying tension and fear that you're going to be judged or rejected by your family members because you don't want to spend time with them anymore. That's not how you want to spend your time. And in fact, you've been teased in the past when you skip Friday family dinners in favor of going to the gym after work and then staying in to cook your own meal. So a critical underlying reason that you remain stuck in this pattern of losing and regaining the same 20, 30, 50 pounds over and over is that your subconscious doesn't feel safe losing weight because of the potential threat this poses to being ostracized by your tribe. Let me look at another example for you. Let's assume you were raised by a hardworking single mother who often worked 2 jobs to ensure that both the bills were paid and food was on the table. Growing up, especially as you got older, you really witnessed and observed how much your mother struggled financially, how hard she worked. And as you became a teenager, you really began to become aware of her disdain and resentment for those who had money. In fact, she often referred to them as spoiled, evil, rich jerks. And we fast forward into adulthood. Your hard work, your entrepreneurial spirit begins to earn you one opportunity after the next to make some significant money. However, as your income begins to grow, so does either the real or perceived tension between your mother and you. Your mother, the one who raised you, your best friend who you love dearly, you begin to notice some tension. And there's 2 factors at play here. Number one, you've been taught your entire life that rich people are spoiled, evil jerks. The last thing you want to do is become that. So it's unsafe to make that amount of money. And then number 2, as you make that amount of money, you start to notice a pattern of backhanded compliments, resentful, passive-aggressive statements. There's tension. There's a threat between the most important relationship in your life, you and your mother. And ultimately, you start playing small. Despite knowing what it takes to achieve your goals and break through to the next level, you hesitate, you avoid the hard work, and you continue to sabotage your efforts, keeping you stuck in this pattern of mediocrity. And I'll give you one more example. Let's assume you've got a great, solid group of golfing buddies. Each of you hovers around a 15 handicap, which ensures that every round is competitive and fun. There's no shortage of opportunity for trash talk and to put some healthy pressure upon one another. And after another lackluster year of insignificant improvement, you decide to take your commitment to the game to the next level by practicing more and perhaps hiring a mindset coach as well. Well, as your scores begin to improve, the amount of teasing you receive from your friends also begins to increase. And of course, let's be frank, this teasing by your friends, it's ultimately rooted in envy, frustration, and pressure. It's their problem. It's not yours. It's a reflection of their own shortcomings and insecurities, not yours. But it still stings. And after a couple of months, it's evident that you winning all of these matches has created tension, frustration, and disconnect amongst your buddies. And what was once a beautiful, peaceful, laughter-filled escape from everyday life to hang out with your best buds now just becomes a little awkward. There's tension, there's disconnect. There's a real threat present, at least subconsciously, to being judged and ultimately eliminated from the group. So despite investing more time, energy, and money into the game and actually reaping the results, you subconsciously begin to dial back your level of commitment and focus. You begin to unconsciously, again, cool yourself down. You begin regressing to past behaviors, beliefs, and mistakes on the course, and ultimately find your handicap settling back in closer to the group average. So I'm hopeful now I gave you 3 diverse examples of this upper limit problem, this fear of success in play in everyday life. You understand how each of us is hardwired with 3 core fears. We fear judgment, abandonment, and rejection, which ultimately creates one predominant theme. It's unsafe to achieve next level success. There's one more aspect of the upper limit problem that we need to take into consideration, and it's also rooted in lack, but not lack of safety. We already know that's there. Your fear of success, the reason you remain stuck and have yet to break through to next level success in your golf game, in your business, in your personal life, in your family life, is there is a lack of belief in what you feel you are worthy of, deserving of, and capable of. Yes, of course, you consciously, right here, right now, you may be thinking to yourself, I believe I can shoot this. I'm deserving of this. I'm capable of this. Unconsciously, however, it's a totally different story. The lack of belief behind an upper limit problem typically stems from unmet critical childhood needs. As a child, we require our parents or caregivers to help us have our needs of acceptance, connection, belonging, and feeling a sense of love met. When these needs go unmet, there's a real threat to our psychological, emotional, and physiological development. When these needs go unmet, we begin to form and deploy from the subconscious a collection of behaviors to help ensure that these needs get met. But depending on your upbringing, how your parents or caregivers raised you, the environment in which you were brought up in, your relationship and dynamics with your siblings, you may not have ever been told or had the opportunity to reinforce just how lovable, worthy, deserving, and capable that you are. And I'm going to use a very polarizing, stark example here. It's a true example of one of my clients, and it really will illustrate the point. One of my clients was the youngest of 2 children. She had an older sister who her mother's favoritism toward was incredibly obvious, not only to this young girl, but to her neighbors and her friends' parents. Now, what's really interesting here is that her older sibling was always the recipient of consistent physical affection, words of affirmation, and could also participate in travel, sports, and extracurricular activities. On the other hand, my client never heard the words, "I loved you," or "I love you," never received hugs, kisses, was not allowed to participate in sports and extracurriculars, and was told, unlike her older sibling, that she'd be responsible for paying her own way through college. We dig a little deeper. Her mother, sadly and unfortunately, told her countless times she was a mistake, she was unwanted. My client told me she can still vividly remember her mother telling her that she wishes she got an abortion. All of this is pain and the reflection of the problems, the hurt, the pain, the suffering, the anger, the grief, the sadness that her mother was experiencing, that was impressed upon my client from a very young age. And the belief system that began to develop was, I'm not worthy or deserving of receiving the love I need and desire from my own mother. Which then, in contrast, paints the picture, why in the world would I be deserving or feel worthy or capable of achieving the goals I desire? And we witnessed a pattern of playing small, remaining stuck, fearful of change, fearful of action for the next couple of decades in my client's life. Until we got to the core of this, able to diffuse and let go of these beliefs and behaviors that were no longer serving her, and dramatically turn up the volume of her confidence, belief, worthiness, capability, and deservingness that she felt at her core about herself and all that she desired in life. So a lot of childhood experiences shape how worthy, deserving, and capable you feel about yourself and your ability to accomplish your goals. And this is just another way in which you dim your light and may not feel able to achieve success, let alone feel like it's safe to achieve it and then hang there. So we've talked about a lot. And it's my hope as you continue to listen to this episode, you're taking notes, and to be frank, you go back and you listen to it at least one more time. If you are serious about achieving next level success on or off the course, there is a hidden ceiling, so to speak, preventing you from doing so. And you may taste success, yet rapidly find yourself regressing to old patterns and beliefs and behaviors. And ultimately, the last element to address is the fact that when you achieve your next level success, it necessitates, it requires an identity change. I was speaking with a client the other day, and he's currently an 8 handicap, aspiring to become a scratch golfer. He's a competitive amateur. And we began to talk about what this means for him. What life is like when he achieves this goal. I mean, the first area he went to is more opportunity, more invitations to play private clubs, to play private courses, to be invited to member guests, more tournaments he can qualify for. And all this comes with just newness, novelty, territory that is yet to be traversed. There's more eyeballs, attention, pressure, spotlight on him. Now there's an expectation, whether it's placed upon himself or by others, to do this consistently. There's now pressure. He needs to perhaps prepare in a new fashion. He needs to think differently, believe differently, speak to and about himself differently. He's charting foreign, unfamiliar waters, which his subconscious and your subconscious paint is unsafe. It's just new, it's foreign, it's unknown, it's unfamiliar. Therefore, immediately it's a red flag. Achieving this goal requires a stark identity change in the behaviors, the beliefs, and the self-talk that compose your identity. And this is why we often see that one person who way overperforms expectation, like my client Arthur, who about an 8 handicap or so suddenly shoots a 71, 1 under par. Holy shit, where did that come from? I'm ecstatic. I'm over the moon. Well, The next couple of months, he struggled to break 80. He couldn't handle the pressure, the expectation of making this his new norm. We see this. I had a client, Ryan, who for a couple of years, her average income was about $300,000 for her business. And then one year it took off. She exploded. She netted $1.2 million. So many changes happened, to say the least. The very next year, well, she regressed. She earned $350,000, which is a fantastic living, but a stark decline from $1.2 million. Am I right? So there's a lot that goes on that influences an identity change when we get to that next level. So your work lies in constantly committing to doing the work to raise the floor, not raise your ceiling, raise the floor, which means raise the level of success your subconscious feels safe achieving. And it happens bite by bite, chipping away at it the same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot that you can do on your own to achieve this goal. And a lot of it, let's be frank, it comes in your quiet reflection, your journaling, your meditation, your self-hypnosis. And of course, it may be a process that's significantly expedited when you reach out to work with a mindset coach and hypnotherapist like myself. But here's an outline of some of the elements and areas you need to consider to break through and overcome your fear of success and your upper limit problem. You need to identify the incongruency. What is the fear keeping you stuck? Get really familiar and clear on the consequences you may experience when you do achieve your goal. Identify what you believe to be true about both achieving your goal and what you believe to be true about those you know who have already achieved that goal you have. How is their life different? What kind of life do they live? How do they speak to and about themselves? What are their beliefs? What are their habits? And start questioning your beliefs that sound off, don't feel right, are outdated and no longer serving you. Replace them with empowering beliefs that reflect your true potential. Identify some of the toxic emotions around achieving this next level success. Practice techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, hypnosis, or journaling to process, release these emotions. Begin to identify the triggers for destructive, sabotaging behavior. Start to dismantle them, unpack them, diffuse the tension and emotion around them so that you can put in place new habits. And consistently remain clear on the identity you are seeking, who you need to become. Again, episode 21 is a great framework and blueprint to listen to achieve your goal. Whew, that was a lot. That flew by. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And most importantly, I hope you found tremendous value in today's episode and learned a significant amount. If you have questions, if you know exactly what to do to achieve your goal, and for whatever reason you feel as if there is an invisible gravitational like force weighing you down and holding you back, you have an upper limit problem. There's a deep-rooted fear of success. And if you're looking for assistance and coaching to break through and achieve your potential, reach out. There's a link below to discover a mental game assessment and discovery call with me, or connect with me on social media. Feel free to even shoot me an email, paul@unstuckyourselfmindset.com. I thank you so much for continuing to listen to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset podcast. If you're finding it valuable, 30 seconds, leave a rating, leave a review, share it with a friend and fellow golfer. This goes a long way. It means more to me than you know in supporting the show and helping the show continue to grow and to get into the earbuds of fellow golfers like you who aspire to shoot more pars than bogeys and play to their potential. Thank you again for listening. Hit them straight this weekend, and I'll catch you in the next episode.